The Sims has released a lot of expansion packs over the years. Some were forgettable, some were massively overpriced, and some were so bad that players even questioned how they'd ever been released in the first place. From the Star Wars pack that nobody seemed to ask for, to restaurants that could never serve anyone, and a wedding pack where Sims barely made it down the aisle. These are the most hated Sims 4 packs ever released, and the reason behind their backlash. At number 5, we have cats and dogs. And I know this is probably going to be the most controversial choice on this list, because a lot of people genuinely love this pack. Released on the 10th of November 2017, Cats and Dogs introduced Brindleton Bay, veterinary clinics, and obviously cats and dogs. And I actually like quite a lot of it. Brindleton Bay is still one of my favourite Sims 4 worlds, and the Create a Pet tool is probably the best thing about this expansion. But when you compare it with the Sims 3 pets, it starts to feel quite limited. The Sims 3 gave us cats, dogs, and horses in one expansion, and you could directly control your pets. In The Sims 4, the horses were removed from the pet expansion entirely, and eventually returned almost 6 years later in Horse Ranch, which was sold as another full expansion pack. Cats and dogs also aren't directly playable. You can give them commands through your Sims, but you can't select them, check their exact needs, or control them just like you did in Sims 3. Which means when your dog starts looking quite miserable, you basically have to guess what's wrong before they run away. And then, only 4 months after Cats and Dogs were released, EA announced My First Pet Stuff, a separate paid pack containing small pets, pet furniture, and additional clothes for cats and dogs. Not everything in the first pet stuff required cats and dogs, but some of its content was specifically made for people who already owned it. And this is where players started using the phrase DLC for DLC. So, Cats and Dogs isn't here because it's a completely terrible expansion. It's here because it shows how much content that once came together could now be separated across multiple paid packs. At number 4, we have Dream Home Decorator. Released on the 1st of June 2021, Dream Home Decorator introduced the Interior Decorator career, where players visited clients' homes, learnt their preferences, and redesigned their space. On paper, it sounds perfect for The Sims. Building is such a huge part of the game, and the pack also added modular storage, sectional sofas, and loads of furniture that players generally seem to love. The problem was the career itself. Players reported clients giving them the completely unhelpful preferences, reveals not working, gigs ending incorrectly, and renovations being rejected even when they seemed to follow the brief. You could be asked to redesign a kitchen, only for the client to reveal they like comedy, hate violin music, and enjoy the colour yellow. Useful. EA mainly responded through patches rather than one big statement, and fixes for the career continued years after release. And that's why Dream Home Decorator makes the list. Not because every part of the pack is bad, but because the main gameplay feature developed a reputation for feeling random, buggy, and unfair. Dine Out was released on the 7th of June 2016, and nearly 10 years later, taking your Sims out for dinner can feel like an extreme sport. The idea was brilliant. You could build your own restaurant, create the menu, hire the staff, run the business, or just take your Sims out for a normal meal. Except, there's absolutely nothing normal about eating at a Sims 4 restaurant. Sims constantly leave their seats, orders get stuck, waiters take forever, and the restaurant staff sometimes just don't do their jobs. And these aren't just random one-off bugs. Players have complained for years about slow service, stuck orders, and restaurants simply not working the way that they should. EA has fixed individual dine-out problems again and again, but there's never really been one full overhaul of the pack. That is what makes Dine Out so frustrating. It's one of the best ideas The Sims 4 has ever had, but it's trapped inside gameplay that's just not reliable. At number 2, we're leaving normal life simulation behind completely and going to Star Wars? Journey to Batuu was announced in August 2020 and released on the 8th of September for £17.99. The pack lets your Sims travel to Batuu, complete missions, collect lightsabers, and choose between the Resistance, the First Order, or a group of smugglers. And people hated the idea straight away. Not because they had played it and found loads of bugs. People just couldn't understand why this was the next Sims pack. At the time, the community was still asking for things like better babies, improved personalities, and more family gameplay. Instead, we got Kylo Ren. So when the trailer appeared, it felt less like EA listened to the Sims players and more like somebody had looked at two massive franchises and decided to force them together. The pack was also based specifically on Batuu, the setting used for Disney's Galaxy Edge theme parks. You couldn't properly live there, build freely, or create normal family life. You travelled there, completed missions, then you went home. So even for players who like Star Wars, it could feel more like visiting a branded attraction than adding something naturally into The Sims. EA never apologised for making it. Instead, the company promoted it as a chance to create your own Star Wars story, while developers spoke about how much they loved the franchise and how closely they had worked with Lucasfilms. Which is nice, but it doesn't really explain why this was the priority. Journey to Batuu wasn't the most broken pack The Sims has ever released. It was arguably something worse. A pack that seemed to answer a question barely anyone was asking. Imagine planning the perfect Sims wedding. You choose the venue, invite the guests, buy the cake, organise the wedding party, and spend ages making sure everything looks right. Then the ceremony starts. Nobody sits down, the officiant disappears, and the couple won't exchange their vows. That was My Wedding Stories. Released on the 23rd of February 2022, the pack was meant to make weddings feel more detailed and easier to control. Instead, it became one of the most chaotic launches in Sims 4 history. The problem wasn't just that a few animations looked strange or one interaction occasionally failed. Nearly every part of the wedding could go wrong. My Wedding Story replaced that basic system with something far more complicated and somehow made the whole experience feel less reliable. Just over a week after release, EA publicly acknowledged the problems in a laundry list, dedicated specifically to that pack. Later that month, it released a huge update covering guest behaviour, processions, officiant, wedding cakes, speeches and ceremony interactions. Basically, EA had to patch almost every part of the wedding. And that's why My Wedding Story takes the #1 spot. It didn't just disappoint players, it became the moment Sims 4 proved they were willing to release a broken pack. So, those are the most hated Sims 4 packs ever released. Obviously, I know everyone plays Sims so differently, so something on that list might be one of your favourite packs ever, and that's so totally fair. My name's Liberty, and this is actually my first ever YouTube video, so thank you so much for watching. I would love to know in the comments if you guys agree with my list, if there's something I'm missing, if there's one of the packs on there that you just like love and will die for. Please let me know. And please subscribe. I've got so many cool ideas coming up, and yeah, I'm just really excited about this channel, and just thank you so much for watching till the end.